It was supposed to be the happiest night of their year, a quiet, romantic anniversary dinner to celebrate 12 years of marriage, growth, struggle, healing, and victories. Janelle and Marcus Reynolds, dressed to perfection, stepped into La Salle Bravura, an upscale French-Italian fusion restaurant tucked away in the wealthier side of town. They'd made reservations 2 weeks in advance, selected a corner table with a view of the lit-up skyline, and even arranged for a mini-surprise dessert presentation to mark their anniversary. But as soon as they entered, everything shifted. The maitre d's smile faltered just slightly when he saw them. It was subtle, almost dismissible, but Janelle noticed. She always noticed. As a black woman who worked in corporate marketing, she'd grown used to identifying the smallest changes in tone, posture, or forced smiles that revealed someone's discomfort with her presence. Marcus, ever the optimist, brushed it off, squeezing her hand and whispering, "Ignore that. This is our night, babe." But as they were led to a table directly beside the noisy kitchen doors, not the reserved skyline view table, they exchanged a silent glance. That was strike one. The waiter arrived, a tall, thin white man in his late 20s named Bryce, with perfectly slicked hair and an expression that could curdle milk. "I'll be your server," he said flatly, barely making eye contact. He handed them menus with a motion that felt more like tossing, and then vanished without offering water, wine suggestions, or even a smile. Janelle's voice was calm but firm. "I'm not doing this tonight." Marcus sighed. "Let's give him a minute." 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Bryce finally returned, but only after taking orders from 2 other tables that had arrived later. "You ready to order?" he asked without writing anything down. No greeting. No pleasantries. When Janelle asked for the gluten-free pasta option, he rolled his eyes and muttered, "You people always want something off menu." The air dropped several degrees. "Excuse me?" Marcus said, leaning forward. Bryce froze for half a second, realizing his mistake, but then he doubled down. "I didn't mean anything. I'm just saying we have rules here. You can't just change the whole menu to fit your diet plan." Janelle's fingers curled into fists under the table. Her jaw was set. She didn't want to cause a scene. But Marcus, her sweet, quiet, gentle husband, was now glaring at Bryce with a look she rarely saw. A waiter from a nearby table caught the tension and stepped back cautiously. A manager was nowhere in sight. "Cancel the order," Marcus said finally. "We'll eat somewhere else." They stood to leave. Bryce shrugged. "Maybe somewhere more casual?" That did it. Janelle turned slowly. "I'm sorry, what?" He smiled smugly, sensing he had the upper hand now that they were leaving. "You know, somewhere that's more your vibe. Cheeseburger place. Chicken spot. I don't know." The insult was surgical. Deliberate. Janelle was speechless, lips trembling in fury, until a loud voice boomed across the restaurant. "Bryce." It was the owner. An older woman with silver-streaked black hair, olive skin, and a sharp expression that stopped everyone mid-bite. She marched over, heels clacking like gunshots on marble, and asked, "Did you really just say that to them?" Bryce straightened up, the smugness replaced by forced confusion. "I didn't mean it like that, I was just—" "No," she snapped. "You meant it exactly like that. Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds are longtime patrons here. They've spent more here in 1 year than you've earned since you started." Bryce's face drained of color. "This is their anniversary dinner, you idiot." Silence swallowed the room. Other diners looked over, unsure whether to be embarrassed or outraged on their behalf. Bryce stammered, "I didn't know." "Because you didn't care to know," the owner barked. "Get in the back. Now." Bryce started to move, but Marcus interrupted calmly. "No. Let him stay." The owner blinked. "What?" Janelle turned to Marcus, her expression tight with confusion and rage. "Let him stay," Marcus repeated. "Because I want to look him in the eye when we tell him who we really are." And then Marcus pulled out a card from his jacket pocket, handed it to the owner and said, "My name is Marcus Reynolds. This is my wife, Janelle Reynolds. I'm the Executive VP of Diversity and Ethics Partnerships for Clarin Global Hospitality. We audit over 200 restaurants in the region, including La Salle Bravura." Gasps echoed from a nearby table. Bryce's eyes widened, his mouth parting as if to speak, but no words came. Marcus wasn't done. "And as of this moment, you've failed your audit." The owner's hand shot to her mouth. "You're that Marcus Reynolds?" Janelle nodded. "He's being modest. He oversees corporate accountability, guest discrimination investigations, and cultural training compliance. Your staff and service tonight? A disaster. Bryce's knees looked weak. The owner's face went pale. Mr. Reynolds, please, can we talk in private? Marcus shook his head. You should have treated us like human beings when we walked in. Not because of my job, but because it's right. Janelle added, we're not asking for special treatment. Just dignity. And then the owner said something unexpected. Wait, there's something you need to know about Bryce. Marcus frowned. What is it? The owner hesitated, looked at Bryce with something between pity and fury, then said, he's not who you think he is. There's a reason he was placed here. And you're going to want to sit down for this. Cut to black. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Marcus's brow furrowed. Janelle crossed her arms. The restaurant had gone dead silent, every eye shifting from them to Bryce and back again. The owner, still rattled, leaned closer to them and whispered urgently, please, come with me. Both of you. We need to speak privately. This goes beyond bad service. Much further. Janelle's curiosity sharpened into unease. Marcus nodded slowly and they followed her past the bar, through a door marked staff only, and down a narrow hallway that smelled of lemon cleaner and stress. They stepped into the manager's office. The owner closed the door behind them and exhaled like she'd been holding it for years. My name is Claudia Moretti, she began. I inherited this restaurant from my father, and we've always taken pride in running it with dignity. But 6 months ago, we had a quiet investor buy a minority stake, without disclosing his full background. He insisted on bringing in his own hires to optimize operations. Bryce was one of them. Janelle narrowed her eyes. So he was planted here? Claudia nodded grimly. Yes, but it wasn't until recently that I started suspecting he was part of something much uglier. I found a recording device hidden under one of the booths last week. Another server told me she overheard him on a call talking about testing reactions and provoking targets. I think he's part of a covert profiling experiment, or worse. Marcus stepped forward. Profiling? For what purpose? That's what I don't know, Claudia replied. But I found something you should see. She opened a locked drawer and pulled out a black folder labeled in block letters. Test subjects, engagement protocol, and underneath that, scribbled in pencil, Phase 2 begins July. Marcus opened the folder slowly. Inside were surveillance photos, dozens of them. Most featured black and brown customers sitting in the restaurant. Some of the images were time-stamped. Others had annotations, did not respond to trigger, escalated on second visit, verbal resistance logged. One photo showed Marcus and Janelle from a visit just 3 months earlier, seated happily in the very corner booth they'd requested tonight. This was your test site, Janelle whispered. This whole restaurant. I didn't know until now, Claudia said, visibly shaken. I thought they were standard audits or mystery shoppers. But now I realize, they're experimenting with people's dignity. Pushing them to see who reacts, who complies, who leaves quietly. And guess who they chose for the aggression stressors? Customers of color. Marcus was already dialing a contact. This violates federal anti-discrimination statutes. We need to shut this down, immediately. Claudia grabbed his arm. There's more. She reached beneath the desk and pulled out a flash drive, sliding it toward him. I found security footage Bryce erased from our main system. This is from last Friday night. Marcus inserted it into his laptop. The screen lit up. The video showed a young black teenager, barely 16, sitting at a table, clearly alone, nervously scanning the menu. Bryce approached. No sound, but his body language was hostile. The teen stood up, clearly distressed. Bryce shoved him in the chest. Janelle gasped. The footage cut to static. I don't know what happened after that, Claudia said. The kid never filed a complaint. But I found his name on one of the annotations. Compliant. Escorted out. No follow-up. Marcus stared at the screen. We need to find that kid. Just then Claudia's office phone rang. She glanced at the number and froze. That's him, she whispered. That's the investor. He never calls the landline. Marcus nodded. Put him on speaker. She answered with a shaky voice. This is Claudia. A deep, composed male voice responded. You've interfered, Claudia. Bryce was under strict instructions. You're jeopardizing everything. Claudia's jaw tensed. You lied to me. You lied to everyone. You're about to regret that, the voice said coldly. And so are your little guests. Then the line went dead. Janelle backed toward the door. Did he just threaten us? Marcus was already moving. He's watching us. Now. Suddenly the lights flickered. Then a loud crash echoed from the hallway. Claudia opened the door cautiously and peered out. The front dining room was empty. Chairs overturned. Plates shattered. Customers gone. Only one person remained, standing near the window. It was Bryce. His apron was off. And in his hand was something dark. Something metallic. Marcus shielded Janelle. Is that a weapon? Claudia asked in horror. Bryce turned slowly. His expression had changed. No longer smug. Now cold. Emotionless. And then he said the words that froze the room. Phase 2 begins tonight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Janelle's breathing hitched. Marcus stepped in front of her instinctively, shielding her from Bryce, whose hand clutched a strange black device. Not a gun, but something just as ominous. It had a blinking red light and an antenna that looked military-grade. Claudia whispered, "That's not a weapon. It's a data beacon, like the ones used in mobile surveillance systems." Marcus recognized it instantly. He'd seen similar tech in corporate security briefings. Devices like that were used to scan nearby devices, clone signals, and broadcast invisible networks, for tracking or syncing external systems. "Put it down, Bryce," Marcus ordered firmly. "Whatever you're about to do, don't." But Bryce's eyes were glassy, vacant. "I'm not in control anymore," he muttered. "I've been activated." Before they could respond, Bryce pressed a button. The beacon pulsed blue once, then green, then black. And every screen in the restaurant went dark. Lights dimmed. Cell phones vibrated violently. A shrill electronic hum filled the air. Claudia's office lights flickered behind them as the emergency backup power kicked in. "What the hell is going on?" Janelle shouted. "This is some kind of network disruption," Marcus said, pulling his phone from his pocket. "I just got kicked off the grid. Full wipe. No signal. No access." Claudia ran to her locked drawer, pulling out a paper copy of the reservation log. "Look at this," she said, showing them the pages. "Half the guests who dined here in the past 3 weeks are now listed with fake phone numbers, duplicate IDs, and coded symbols." Janelle scanned it, frowning. "These aren't just random customers. Most of them are from Black, Latino, and immigrant communities. And these codes next to their names? This is a scoring system." Bryce stood eerily still, his head twitching slightly like he was fighting an internal command. Phase 2 was designed to escalate subject engagement, trigger bias, monitor compliance, report anomalies. Tonight was the activation. Marcus's voice dropped cold. "Who built this system?" "I don't know," Bryce whispered. "Only the project handler does. I just collect the data." Claudia gasped. "But you targeted real people. Do you even know what you've caused?" "Detentions. Suspensions. Background flags," Bryce said with the detachment of someone reciting from a manual. "Bank account disruptions. Neighborhood policing adjustments. Risk tier elevation based on emotional outbursts." "Emotional outbursts?" Janelle snapped. "You mean people reacting to racism and being punished for it?" Bryce didn't answer. Marcus turned to Claudia. "We need the building security feed. All of it. If we can trace the beacon's signal, we might be able to identify who it syncs to." Claudia nodded and ran back into her office. Marcus followed, leaving Janelle in the hallway with Bryce, still standing like a malfunctioning drone. She looked into his eyes, searching for something human. "Why us?" she asked softly. "Why people who just wanted to eat dinner?" Bryce blinked once. "Because you're measurable." Suddenly, the restaurant's fire alarm blared. But there was no smoke. Claudia shouted from her office, "Marcus, you need to see this." He ran in and looked at her screen. On the feed was a figure standing outside the restaurant in the shadows, watching through the glass. He wore a long charcoal coat, gloves, and a black baseball cap pulled low. His face, partially obscured, was recognizable. Too recognizable. "No way," Marcus whispered. "That's Damon Keswick." He's on the board of Omnisite Analytics. He's the investor, Claudia confirmed. He's behind all of this. Keswick was a billionaire tech investor who built surveillance systems for both private clients and government contracts, under the guise of public safety innovation. But Marcus had read the reports, heard the murmurs. Whispers about predictive threat systems targeting high-risk individuals before crimes occurred. The problem? High risk almost always meant poor or black. Marcus reached for Claudia's old landline. We need outside help. I know someone at the DOJ. But the line was dead. Bryce suddenly jolted upright and started walking fast toward the back exit. Janelle called after him, "Where are you going?" He turned back monotone. "Phase 3 begins in 30 minutes. I have to report in." "He's going to the data van," Marcus said. "That's how they're transmitting. They're parked close." Claudia ran to her desk and handed Janelle an envelope. "This is everything. Copies of his intake forms, his employment contract, and some of the backdoor codes he used. Use it." Marcus looked out the back window. "We follow him. He'll lead us to the mobile command." Claudia hesitated. "That's dangerous. These people don't operate legally." "Neither does injustice," Janelle said. They followed Bryce discreetly into the alley. He walked 3 blocks in silence until he turned into a side lot where a large black unmarked van sat humming with servers, satellite dishes and motion sensors spinning slowly on the roof. He entered through a side panel without knocking. 2 figures inside glanced up as he stepped in. Marcus, from behind a dumpster, pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of their faces through the tinted glass. "Got them?" he whispered. "I can ID them later." But as he zoomed in, he noticed something else. One of the faces inside the van was a police officer. The same officer who pulled him over 2 weeks earlier for a random license check. That wasn't random at all. He froze. "They've been watching me for weeks." Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift black voices and expose hidden truths. Marcus crouched lower behind the rusted dumpster, his hands trembling slightly as the glow from the van's tinted windows pulsed with flickering data. The same police officer who had pulled him over 2 weeks ago, a smug white man with a chipped front tooth and an attitude to match, was sitting inside, wearing tactical black and tapping on a laptop. The man beside him was clearly from corporate, his ID badge glinting faintly, Jason Reese, Omnisite lead operator. Janelle whispered urgently, "Do we move in now? We can't let them destroy anything." But Marcus shook his head. "If we interrupt now, they'll wipe the logs. We need to figure out where the data's being transmitted, and who's receiving it." Just then, Bryce leaned forward inside the van, unzipping a silver bag and pulling out a biometric drive, the kind only used for encrypted classified transfers. "This is their offline archive," Marcus murmured. "They're backing up everything to it." Claudia, speaking softly through a Bluetooth earpiece she had given them before they left, chimed in from the restaurant. "That's the same drive model used in military command centers. I thought Omnisite only sold to private security firms." "They don't," Marcus replied grimly. "That means they've got unauthorized government contracts, or worse." Inside the van, a red loading bar reached 100%. Jason Reese nodded. "Copy complete. We'll drop this in Kansas tomorrow. Project Greenlight Phase 3 goes live at midnight." "Kansas?" Janelle asked, confused. "What's in Kansas?" "Not what," Marcus said. "Oh. Kansas is where the DoD runs their experimental facial matching AIs. They're scaling this model nationwide." Janelle stared at him. "So people like us, black people, immigrants, anyone who doesn't fit the profile, will be flagged automatically? Preemptively punished. Systemically filtered," Marcus confirmed. "It's predictive policing turned into full-blown civilian scoring. That explains the strange flags on our bank accounts, your job application holdups," she whispered. "They're testing us like rats in a behavioral lab." Claudia's voice crackled again. "And that beacon Bryce activated in the restaurant? It didn't just collect info, it tagged you. You're now in the volatile subject group." Marcus swallowed hard. "They're watching us now." Suddenly, inside the van, the police officer turned sharply toward the window. He pulled out his service weapon and stepped outside, scanning the alley with a cold stare. "They've seen us," Janelle whispered. "Back. Move back." They retreated into the shadows, but it was too late. The officer radioed something, and within seconds 2 blacked-out SUVs screeched around the corner. Armed men in suits flooded the alley, sweeping the area with military-grade optics. "We're boxed in," Marcus said, dragging Janelle behind a stack of crates. "We've got to split up." "I'll draw them away," Janelle insisted, gripping the folder Claudia had given them. "You take the backup route, loop back to the restaurant. Claudia can hide you in the wine cellar." "No way. I'm not letting you go alone," Marcus argued. But she pressed a kiss to his forehead. "We don't have a choice. We need someone to make it out with evidence." And before he could stop her, she bolted down the alley, slapping her heels hard to draw attention. The agents turned and gave chase. Marcus, heart hammering, turned the other direction and slipped through the side fence, crawling through trash bins and broken pallets until he emerged into the street, only to be grabbed by a hooded figure and yanked behind a van. "Don't move," the voice said. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." Marcus struggled, but the figure handed him something wrapped in cloth. Inside was a second drive. A clone. "They made a mistake," the figure said. "They think they control everything. But some of us on the inside, we've been watching them." Marcus blinked. "Who are you?" The figure pulled back the hood just enough to reveal a familiar face. Claudia gasped into the earpiece. "That's Chloe Gant. She vanished 2 years ago, an FBI whistleblower." "She didn't vanish," Marcus said. "They erased her." "I have the names, the contract files, the entire structure," Chloe said urgently. "But we only have one chance to get it out before midnight. After that, they'll reboot the system and wipe all active logs. The country will never know." Suddenly Marcus's phone vibrated. A message popped up. "Unknown, we have Janelle. One wrong move and she disappears like the others." Chloe saw it. "They're forcing your hand." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'm done playing by their rules." He looked at Chloe and said, "Then we take the fight to them, publicly. I want every news camera on that van before sunrise." "But you'll expose yourself," Chloe warned. "And Janelle could die," Claudia added. Marcus stared into the shadows, where sirens began to wail in the distance. "Then we better move fast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths." Marcus stood just outside the perimeter of the restaurant where it had all started, now barricaded, surrounded by flashing blue and red lights, media vans, drones, and a small crowd growing by the second. Claudia's voice crackled in his earpiece. "The live stream is ready. Every major news outlet has picked up the preview feed. Once you walk out there, it all goes public. No more hiding." Marcus, clutching the clone drive that Chloe had handed him in Part 4, nodded. "Let's finish this." But his heart pounded for a different reason. Janelle was missing. He could still see her running down that alley, acting as bait so he could escape with the evidence. And now she was somewhere unknown, held by the same surveillance corporation they just exposed, hidden beneath polished partnerships and high-profile PR. If anything happened to her. A voice broke through the tension. "Marcus Langley," a suited man yelled, pushing through the crowd with a megaphone. It was Jason Reese, the Omnisite executive who had overseen the illegal surveillance setup. He was flanked by private security and 2 lawyers. "You are in possession of stolen federal surveillance property. If you value your safety and that of your companion, you will surrender it now. This is your only warning." Marcus stared at him. "You mean Janelle?" he called back, raising his voice so the crowd could hear. "Where is she?" Jason smirked. "Alive for now. But things go sideways real fast when traitors refuse to listen." The crowd shifted, uneasy. Claudia's voice cut in. "Marcus, go live. Now." Marcus took a breath, reached into his coat and pressed the transmitter on his phone. The moment he did, screens lit up, sidewalk monitors, smartphones, building projectors. The live stream began. "America, listen to me," Marcus said, his voice booming through the shared feed. "My name is Marcus Langley. I was racially profiled and degraded at a restaurant on my anniversary. That was just the beginning. What we found afterward goes much deeper. Illegal surveillance, biometric tagging, pre-crime databases, and predictive arrest systems targeting Black and marginalized communities." He held up the clone drive. "This contains video proof, emails, data maps, contract lists, and encrypted voice memos from executives. Your faces, your spending habits, your family history, they've been watching it all. And worse, they've been using it against you. Gasped from the crowd. Phones raised. Reporters surged forward. Jason Reese yelled, "Shut him down. Jam the signal." Too late. A satellite feed had already picked it up. Claudia confirmed, "It's mirrored on global servers. They can't stop it now." Suddenly from the back of the crowd, a scream. People turned. Janelle stumbled forward. Her face bruised but her eyes alive. She had escaped. Behind her limped Chloe Gant, the FBI whistleblower who had vanished 2 years earlier. "I got her out," she said. "Barely. They're planning to erase everything at midnight. Including both of you." Jason panicked. He barked into his walkie, "Now." And it. But just then the sirens changed pitch. A caravan of real federal agents arrived. Not corporate thugs, Justice Department officials, flanked by cybercrime officers and FBI vehicles. One stepped forward. "Jason Reese," the lead agent said, pulling out a warrant. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, unlawful surveillance, and obstruction of justice." The crowd erupted. Marcus turned, just in time for Janelle to collapse into his arms. "You made it," she whispered. "I never doubted you." "They're shutting it down," Claudia said. Omnisite stock just plummeted 43% in 3 minutes. As agents hauled Jason and his cronies away, Marcus looked out at the hundreds, now thousands, watching on their phones and streaming live. He realized this wasn't just about him. Or Janelle. Or one bad waiter. It was about everyone who's ever been judged at first glance. About every black couple treated like a problem instead of a celebration. About every person whose dignity was taken in silence. Until now. Justice isn't just about courts, it's about courage, cameras, and calling out the system when it fails the people it should protect. Never underestimate the power of 2 people who refuse to stay silent, especially when truth, love, and justice are on their side. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths.